Hello everybody, Glass from Glass Half Dead here, and today we have the Kill Team FAQ and Errata. You may be wondering, why do we have Araman on the thumbnail here? That's because he is, of course, the Keeper of Knowledge, very Zinch, the constant changing of things. I thought about it. Yep. Anyway, so let's get straight into this. Let's do it. Okay. Overall thoughts. This is the Moroch and Nakmund FAQ cycle. I think we didn't have a Nakmund thing before. That's the Corsairs and the Legionaries. I thought we had in my head, but maybe we hadn't, because when I went to put in all of the different changes that we had, so I can talk about them properly without having to sift through them, all of their changes were new. So, memory and time is both challenging. There are 37 changes in total. Get ready, we're going through every single one of them over the following X number of years that we have to do this video for. Fingers crossed I don't stumble too much. The majority of these are just clearing up rules. There's no real power shift. There's no kind of big change. There are big changes to how a lot of people are going to play, but overall they are minor. It's not like they've made a balance change. Talking balance changes, just for you unaware, this is an FAQ and Errata, which changes the rules to do the correct thing. The balanced data slate, where they do things like adding models to teams or removing grenades, is a separate document that remains unchanged for this period. This is just the rules. And I would, as always, like to say big congratulations to my Discord. Why would I do that? Well, because in my Discord, there is an FAQ rules channel. This is where a very large majority of these changes come from. Not all of them. There are other places where rules get forwarded to the designers. But my Discord is a known place where that happens. Okay, we don't even have time for a double hello, but I would say that if you're subscribed to my channel, I'd like to give you a big double hello. That's right, not even editing it. No sound, we're just going straight into it. Hey, if you like what you're seeing, consider checking me out on Patreon, leaving a drop, a like, a comment, a subscribe, all of this. I don't know, let's go for it. Okay, first up we have the core changes. Okay, first up is page 72, vantage point. The operative cannot use the floor of the vantage point to be obscured. Now, I had to go and check what this means. Don't worry, I've checked them all for you. What does this mean? So originally, this said, cannot use the floor of the vantage point as cover or to be obscured. So this means they've removed being able to use the vantage point floor as cover. Now, we have to think about what exactly that means. I think... at first I had thought that this means this was put in place so that if you're using a punishing vantage point, you would receive cover from the floor there, because that interacts. But I think that actually, with the way this is worded, if you're on a vantage point, and you are essentially always going to be in cover, right? I need to go and think about that, because that is a really big change. I might be wrong. You can't be obscured, but you can be in cover. You're almost always going to be in cover. Okay, moving on. Do you have to declare the use of all rerolls before the dice are rerolled? No. You can see the result of a reroll before deciding on a different reroll. So this is not how I played it. Let me explain it for you nice and quick. Let's say you've rolled your Grey Knights, your entire falchions are relentless. You've got 5 dice. You decide to... No, that's a terrible example because you just always reroll. Let's say you've rolled your 4 dice. You've got 2 hits, 2 misses. Okay? Before, how I would play it, you have to decide what to do with those 2 dice. How many CP do you want to spend? Are you going to reroll 1 for 1 CP or 2 for 2 CP? I would say the decision had to be made then and there. They're saying, no, you can spend 1 CP to reroll 1 dice, see what the result is, and then decide what you want to do with the next CP and the next dice. Simple. Not my jam, but cool. Some rules require you to roll a dice as if that operative is fighting in combat or similar. Question 1, is the target considered to be fighting in combat too? No. Now the reason that's important is some people thought that if you are fighting in combat, you always have to have an opposing role to fight against, and if there isn't one, you can't fight. Or alternatively, if there isn't one, then you automatically pass, and that obviously always isn't always the case. Cool. So that's just nope. You still have to pass a hit. Is combat support applied? Yes. Good to know. Can rules that take effect when the target is incapacitated in combat be used? Yes. This differs from question 1 because the target is still incapacitated in combat, even though it wasn't fighting in the combat itself, which is good to know, I would say. We then go on to the next core changes. Don't worry, we're going to power through. Some rules, such as the Phobos strike team, track target action interrupt and activation after an enemy operative performs an action if it's the last action of an activation, or even the last action of the final activation of the turning point. Can that activation still be interrupted? Yes. Good. Is an operative... So, the reason there is that, for example, let's say you've got a model, whatever, a regular vet guard, he's got 2 APL. The question here is, when you move once, we understand you can then interrupt the activation, right? Because you still have the rest of an activation to complete. Here, it's saying you use 1 APL, you use another APL, but then my turn is finished, so you cannot interrupt me with a shot. This is clarifying, yes, you can. Your activation does not immediately finish, you can be interrupted. Is an operative equipped with the weapons it can use from psychic powers? For instance, can psychic power weapons be upgraded with rare equipment from the core book? No. Now that bit I imagine, because it seems pretty clear that you are not equipped with it. However, something I had not put together is that means being injured doesn't affect your weapon characteristic, which means your ballistic skill, weapon skill, which is really cool actually. So that's a little bit of a buff for Warp Coven. # they needed it. When using the equipment drop requisite, I'm going to stop right there, okay? Because that's narrative, and I actually have no idea what this is. No, okay, I'll read it. How do you determine the points worth of equipment that has a split cost? For example, high capacity magazine, 1/3 EP, Warp Coven, use the lower cost. Okay. I assume that's the thing. When an operative makes multiple shooting attacks from one shoot action, e.g. blast or torrent, does the sharpshooter battle honor apply to all the shooting attacks from that one action, or just the first one? All of them. Again, narrative. # narrative for life. For scrap pile terrain features in Killzone Octaris, how far is an operative treated as moving when performing a scramble over or charge over action? For the purposes of a Warp Coven Rubric Marines operative, all is just ability. The distance it has travelled from the start to the end of that action. The reason this is a little bit confusing is because, and this is one I'm still very conflicted by. Let's take it back to the idea of a barricade. If there is the Rubric Marines are only allowed to move 3 circle in their turn. Okay, keep in mind 3 circle. Cool. Which we know is 6 inches, but that's not what's relevant here. 3 circle. If you were to move over a barricade which costs you 1 circle, but in reality is like 3 mil thick, right? How far have you moved? Have you moved 4 inches, the actual physical distance from point A to point B, or have you moved 6 inches? Because you've spent a circle. Have you spent a CP, a circle to move? They're saying, yes. You have, no wait, they're saying, no, you haven't. They're saying, so you could therefore, from this logic, I believe, move over a barricade, and then if you need, and then you could dash the extra 2 inches. That's a change. I believe that's a change. That wasn't how I thought it was played. But, unless I'm, because I am, of course, reading these live, I could be misinterpreting it in the heat of the moment. I think that's what it means. And then there's just another one that says, if you're allowed to do a normal move or a charge, but actually there's a scramble terrain, so you need to scramble over or charge over, can you swap those? And they're saying yes, which is cool. I think that's good. This is obviously just a way to make scrap piles work. We then go over to the Corsair Voidscarred. Let's start with the Fauchu action. We have changed the third bullet point to read that enemy operative is not within 1 inch of heavy terrain. This used to be heavy cover. So that enemy operative is not within 1 inch of heavy cover. But heavy cover doesn't actually exist. Colloquially, we all use it, of course. Why wouldn't we? But heavy cover doesn't exist. Heavy terrain has an effect, but cover is just cover, basically. So they just fixed their own wording mistake there. Can the Voidscarred Shade Runner operative move within engagement range of an enemy operative for the slicing attack action, even though it has the fly keyword and can move around, across, and over operatives as if they were not there? Yes. Move it to a location it can be placed and within engagement range. Ignore fly to resolve the slicing attack. Then continue the move with fly. This was something that needed to be clarified because, you know, it wasn't accounted for in the wording, in the verbiage of the rules. But this is clearly how it should have worked. So this is good to see Raw being corrected for Rye. Sorry, that's not what they've done. They've clarified the Raw and how that works. Cool. When a Voidscarred Wayseeker operative performs the Manifest Psychic Power action for a second time during its activation, do I have to select a different Psychic Power from the one I selected the first time in that activation? Yes. Cool. Good to know. Yeah. You can't use 2 of the same Psychic actions. No double Warp Lightning stuff. Kommandos. Skulk about strategic ploy. Change the final part of the sentence to read, you can retain 1 as a successful normal save without rolling it, regardless of any rules that treat that operative as having an engage order. This is a really good change. This is going to help Kommandos, because sure enough, technically, if you were shot from a vantage point, you could not use Skulk About because you were, in theory, on an engage order, which really led to the question of how does treated as being on an engage order work, and we didn't really know. This, in a weird way, like this should have been a core rule change in my opinion, where they say whenever you see treated as, this is what treated as means and defines and does. But they just changed a single effect, knock-on effect from that instead, which I suppose you could argue gives us a little hint about what they mean. We go over to the Legionary and have a sip of water because it's rather warm and we must all stay hydrated. This video is sponsored by water. Thank you. When using the Disgusting Vigor ability, can I retain the successful normal save as a result of cover as a critical save instead? Yes. This must be decided before defense dice are rolled, however. Man, I just completely zoned out. I'm sorry. What is Disgusting Vigor? Let's find out what this really means. Sorry guys, sorry. I should have gone and added this. I did with some of the others. Disgusting Vigor ability, which is going to be over here. Disgusting Vigor, for those that don't know. Each time a shooting attack is made against this operative in the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, you can retain 1 normal save as a critical save. And then here we have, when using the Disgusting Vigor ability, can I retain the successful normal save as a result of cut? Okay, cool. Alright, it's fine. That's good to know. Yes. And you have to do it before defense dice are rolled. Cool. So you have to decide whether your cover save, first you decide, are you taking a cover save? Then you also decide, and I'm going to Disgusting Vigor it to make it a critical, or I'm not going to Disgusting Vigor it. And I will then hopefully roll a save and use my Disgusting Vigor on another one instead. Lovely. Can the Malignant Aura Tactical Ploy reduce the number of defense dice rolled when using an invulnerable save? What is the Malignant Aura Tactical Ploy, you may ask? Again, I have not written that down. I was obviously slacking on this one. Malignant Aura. Use this tactical ploy during a friendly Nurgle operative's activation till the end of the turning point. While an enemy operative is within 3 inches of that Nurgle operative, subtract 1 from the defense characteristic of that enemy operative. And then, can the Malignant Aura Tactical Ploy reduce the number of defense dice rolled when using an invuln save? Okay, good to know. Invuln saves are not what they are in 40k. They are not things that cannot be modified. They're something else. Yes, invuln save specifically ignore save characteristic modifiers and APX special rules, whereas malignant aura affects the defense characteristic. Good to know. Legionary operative selection. Other than legionary warrior operatives, your kill team. Okay, yeah, they just had to put the word legionary in. Then we get perpetual aggression. Now you'll notice that I did remember to put in the perpetual aggression. You can read that because that's a whole video on its own, me reading perpetual aggression. Add the following bullet point. It can do so even if it's performed a normal move or charge action during the activation, and vice versa. Doing so doesn't prevent it from subsequently performing a normal move or charge action during that activation in a normal manner. This is, I believe, just kind of like a weird little hack to allow you to actually do perpetual aggression, because otherwise it doesn't quite work, sort of thing. Okay, and now we're still on Legionary. Mutability and change tactical ploy. Use this tactical ploy when a friendly Tzeentch operative is activated. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what has changed there, because Wikipedia, where I went to go and find out what all the differences were, already says exactly that. Now, did somebody leak the new wording, or did Warcom accidentally think this was a change when it wasn't? I'm looking at it right now. Use this tactical ploy. Use this tactical ploy when a friendly Tzeentch operative is activated. Full stop. Okay, yeah. Alright, Legionary Chosen, Soul Feast ability is also identical. And so is the Aspiring Champion thing. I don't know what was going on there. These were marked as changes. Maybe, therefore, these already happened. I don't know. Pass. Okay, maybe I got carried away, because now that I look at it, those don't have the asterisk. Have I just read out a bunch of stuff that's already been announced? Yes. Great. Moving on to Novitiates. If an enemy operative is incapacitated at the end of a turning point due to Inferno tokens, does this count for the Purge with Flame tac op? No, it must specifically be the attacks that incapacitate them. Purge with Flame is get a kill with an Inferno weapon, and it's saying here that even if the Inferno token that your Inferno weapon applies gets the kill, that's not what they want you to do. If an activation is interrupted, can an additional act of faith be used during the interruption? Interesting. For example, if I use an act of faith during a Novitiate operative's activation, then the activation is interrupted by the Phobos strike during track targets action. Can I perform another act of faith during track targets or Overwatch action? No. I think that's pretty what I would expect. Yep, because you're still in the same activation. You're not opening up like a second activation window. It's just your activation, but something else is happening. No, you can only perform one act of faith between the start and end of the activation, before, during, or after the interruption. Page 40, Acts of Faith, Faithful Blessing. When a friendly Novitiate operative is fighting in combat or making a shooting attack, or a shooting attack is being made against it, in the roll defense die step in the roll attack die step for the former, roll defense die step for the latter of that combat or shooting attack, reroll one of your attack or defense dice, respectively. The only thing they added here was the word respectively. Yeah, there you go. Vet Guard. When using the Confidant operative's directive ability, can I select a ready friendly operative and then subsequently use a tactical asset instead? No, you cannot. Good. Page 48. Place a mine token within 1 inch of and visible to this operative. This is going to be mentioned again and again. So far, I believe they have replaced every possible mine laying ability with "you must be visible to the token you are placing." This makes perfect sense. Other people have been playing where you can place it through a wall, and they're just stopping that, which is a good idea. Over to the Wormblade. For the purposes of the Cult Ambush ability, when a Wormblade operative makes multiple shooting attacks from one shoot action, e.g. Blast or Torrent, do the rerolls apply to all the shooting attacks from that one action, or just the first one? All of them. So this was kind of mentioned at the beginning as well, but this is a good clarification, I think, because what it's letting us know is that the shoot action is truly not just the shoot roll, it is the entire action you are making. If you go to the core rules, a shoot action is a really big box that they take a long time to explain, and they give you like 8 bullet points, and that's the steps. That is the shoot action. It's not just the single roll of the dice. Good to know. And then go over to the Blooded, page 55, Traitor Brimstone Grenadier. Change the Diabolic Bomb to a ranged weapon. For those of you unaware, the Traitor Brimstone Grenadier, next to his Diabolic Bomb, it was marked as a melee weapon, which I am. As soon as I saw that, I thought, okay, fine, it's clearly just meant to be a ranged weapon. I didn't give it a second thought, but somebody pointed out it could have been a ranged weapon, or sorry, a melee weapon, but they just gave a melee weapon a 6-inch range. I was like, it's not the craziest idea. I mean, like, it wouldn't be weird at all if, some of the Novitiates with a big whip had a circle range melee weapon, right? It would just be a profile that had a certain range and could be used in melee. It wouldn't be that weird. But anyway, it was not how it works. We then go over to the Phobos. Okay, we're going to do one more water, guys. Let's do it. Because there's quite a few changes here, I'm going to be honest. Okay. Infiltrator Saboteur, Detonate Special Rule. What they've done here, is they've changed visible to valid target. So originally it said each operative, friendly and enemy, it just said each operative that is visible to this operative, essentially. Now they've changed it to each operative, friendly and enemy, within 3 inches is a valid target, as opposed to just is visible. Cool. This just allows the mine to blow up and hurt your own people. Good stuff. They've also then, as I mentioned, they've changed the mine token to get a generic you must be visible to the token. And then for the incursor mine layer, the way this works is you lay a mine, and then you run away, and at some point you activate it. Actually, I think it's the infiltrator that does that. You activate the mine, or the mine activates when somebody moves within X of it. Obviously, it's a little bit weird that if your marine goes and gets injured, he's then hitting on 4s instead of 3s from a proximity mine, just lying around on the floor on the other side of the map. So obviously this is just saying, nope, doesn't happen. Good stuff. We then get the incursor mine layer. Another change for a mine has to be visible to the token, and then we get the smoke grenade action, which is just updating the smoke grenade to be what the FAQ'd smoke is for both all the Compendium teams and Kommandos. Good to see. I think everybody that I know of was already playing smoke grenade as the FAQ'd smoke grenade. I don't think there was really a question how it should have been played, but it's good to see it done. And then finally, final one, guys, we're almost there. Oh boy, almost there. Okay. The Incursor Marksman's track target action says if that enemy operative is not incapacitated or revived as a result, finish its activation. What does finish mean? So, your opponent continues with the remainder of the enemy operative's activation. Cool. So obviously in this instance, finish. So when I read it, I immediately said, I know that this means they continue their action. One of the Spanish guys reached out to me and said, Glass, does this mean end the activation? And that's when it occurred to me that yes, in this instance, the word finish could mean continue or end. And there's actually no way to know which. The fact that I had read it one way doesn't mean that was correct. And it could very validly have been end, and I had no way to explain to him why I thought what I thought, or even if I was correct. So I immediately said, let's put this one in the FAQ channel. Does the Incursor Marksman's track target action allow it to perform Overwatch more than once in the same turning point? No. Cool. So the reason they need to put that in is because they said for the purposes of action restriction, this action counts as a shoot action. And so you could say that even though it uses a lot of weird verbiage about how it's actually an Overwatch action, they're actually only using the Overwatch term to confer a -1 to your ballistic skill. But they're saying no, it does take a shoot and an Overwatch action, essentially. Good to clarify. How do you determine climb distance when using the grapnel launcher equipment and the first bullet point of the Vanguard strategic ploy? Determine the normal distance, apply grapnel launcher, then apply Vanguard. I actually don't know why we needed that, but good. For example, a 2-circle climb would instead require 1 circle with a grapnel launcher, then Vanguard would ignore that circle, allowing the operative to ignore the vertical distance of the climb. Oh, okay. Alright, yeah, I can kind of see why that was needed. Cool. Yeah, good for them to clarify. How do you determine drop distance when using the grapnel launcher equipment and the first bullet point of the Vanguard? So I haven't read it yet. I'm just going to assume that it's exactly the same. You would end up dropping 0. As above, determine the normal distance, apply grapnel launcher, then apply Vanguard if needed. For example, a circle drop would be halved to 1 inch with a grapnel launcher. Drop distances of less than circle are ignored, so this would allow the operative to use the first bullet point of Vanguard elsewhere during that activation. Cool. Also, a good little clarification there that, this is once per activation, don't forget that. Finally, final rule, all 31, 37, whatever it was. How do you resolve Voxbreaker Operative, and Umbra Shroud, rare equipment, if they both take effect? Well, obviously nobody's ever played narrative, so we don't actually know what Umbra Shroud does, but let's read on anyway. Apply both. Your opponent must reroll critical hits, but they cannot reroll anything else. Interesting. This is, you can never reroll a dice, but also you must reroll this dice. Ooh. Okay, fair enough. Okay, everybody, that is it. That is everything. Not too bad, not too bad. 37 changes there. Big congrats to my Discord. Again, these were rules tidying FAQs and erratas. These were not balance changes, even though there were balance changes. For example, probably a good thing for Warp Coven. And I'm like now 90% sure now that I actually did not need to read Corsair Voidscarred and Legionary. So that's... I'll double check that. But anyway, not a big issue. Guys, this has been Glass Half Dead. I'd like to thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. You are the real OG. You are my roadmen. You are my... I'm running out of words because I guess in my life I've never needed that many words for the word friend. Doesn't get used that much. Guys, thanks very much. Enjoy Kill Team. Bye.